We need this cleared before the next tide.
Hey, shifting as fast as we can, sir. Mind the ammunition.
January 12th, 1942. London wakes beneath a blanket of fog. The streets are silent except for the distant clatter of boots on cobblestones. Smoke curls from chimneys, merging with the damp chill that seeps through coats and collars. Inside the Ministry of Defense, a single lamp flickers above a cluttered mailroom desk, illuminating stacks of envelopes stamped with official seals. Paper rustles under tired hands as clerks sort correspondence that could tip the balance of the war, though most of them do not know it. One envelope lies slightly askew, its edges worn, the handwriting unremarkable. Inside, a series of symbols, seemingly random letters and numbers, await discovery. To most, it is just another piece of bureaucracy, another message among hundreds. Yet, to those trained to see patterns in chaos, these symbols carry a secret that could change the course of entire operations. Outside, London waits, oblivious to the intelligence slipping through its grasp. One unnoticed mistake, one glance away, could shift the war's tide in ways no one yet imagines. The clock ticks. The code waits. By early 1942, the world was engulfed in a conflict that stretched across continents and oceans. In Europe, Nazi Germany had tightened its grip over occupied territories, while Britain, though battered by air raids, maintained a tenuous hold on hope. Across the Atlantic, the United States had entered the war following Pearl Harbor, adding industrial might and manpower to the Allied effort. In this chaotic theater, victory was no longer measured solely by numbers on the battlefield. It depended on information, who knew what and when. Intelligence had become a weapon as decisive as tanks or bombers. In the heart of Buckinghamshire, Bletchley Park hums with activity. Thousands of clerks, mathematicians, and linguists labor over intercepted German communications. At the center of their effort, the Enigma cipher. Each day, hundreds of messages, encrypted in complex, ever-changing codes, are captured from U-boat patrols, Luftwaffe sorties, and Wehrmacht commands. One letter decoded correctly could save a convoy from annihilation. One missed pattern could send thousands of sailors to their deaths. The tension in these rooms is palpable, a silent war waged in the glow of electric lamps and the clatter of typewriters. But intelligence was not a one-way street. The Germans, too, understood the value of secrecy and the danger of mistakes. Their double agents, disguised operatives, and coded transmissions formed a network that stretched across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. The Allies' success depended not just on breaking codes, but on understanding human error, miscommunication, and the subtle ways messages could be exposed. A letter left unattended, a misfiled dispatch, or a careless clerk could change everything. Beyond the walls of Bletchley Park, London itself is both a fortress and a target. Air raids have scarred the city, leaving bombed streets and shattered buildings as daily reminders of vulnerability. The public carries on with stoic determination, unaware that the war is often decided in offices, mailrooms, and intelligence stations far from the front lines. Every message, every cipher, every seemingly insignificant note has the potential to alter military operations, shift naval patrols, or redirect bombers over enemy territory. It is in this climate that our story unfolds. The Allies are orchestrating multiple campaigns, protecting convoys in the Atlantic, countering German advances in North Africa, and planning operations that will one day turn into massive offensives. Coordination depends on accurate, timely intelligence. Yet, the fog of war, both literal and metaphorical, creates space for mistakes. One code left in plain sight could be ignored, misinterpreted, or exploited. It is a small lapse, but in this environment, small lapses have consequences measured in lives, ships, and strategic positions. Meanwhile, the Axis powers maintain their own internal pressure. Hitler's directives are followed with a mixture of zeal and fear. Officers compete to demonstrate loyalty and efficiency. Communications are encrypted, compartmentalized, and strictly monitored. Despite these precautions, human oversight is inevitable. Clerks misfile documents. Couriers make errors. Inattention, fatigue, and simple human error can render sophisticated codes vulnerable. In other words, perfection in intelligence work is an illusion, and war thrives in the spaces between perfection and oversight. By the time a seemingly ordinary envelope enters the London mailroom, the stakes are monumental. The world has reached a point where information is power, yet information is fragile. The success of Allied operations in Europe and beyond rests on both the brilliance of codebreakers and the vigilance of ordinary personnel. One unnoticed sequence of letters, left in plain sight, holds the potential to ripple through military strategy, altering plans in ways no one anticipates. It is against this backdrop of urgency, tension, and uncertainty that our tale begins, where human error meets the immense machinery of war. The story of a code left unnoticed will illuminate not only the mechanics of intelligence, but the fragility of wartime operations and the high cost of a single overlooked message. The envelope in question was unremarkable, its exterior ordinary, but its contents were anything but. Inside, a seemingly random arrangement of letters and numbers concealed a critical piece of intelligence, an operational schedule for a series of German U-boat deployments in the Atlantic. The sender was an officer stationed at a forward command in occupied France, meticulous in every other aspect of his duty. But this time, a routine lapse left the message exposed. It had not been sealed in the expected cipher packet. Instead, it traveled through normal channels, sorted by clerks who had no reason to suspect its importance. At Bletchley Park, analysts were accustomed to deciphering the cryptic, but they relied on intercepts being flagged correctly. Messages slipped through unnoticed were not uncommon, but this one carried information that, if recognized, could save hundreds of lives and alter the trajectory of Allied naval operations. On the morning it arrived, no one paused to examine it. The envelope sat, stacked beneath other correspondence, until a routine audit by a junior officer brought it to attention, but not before valuable hours had passed. In intelligence work, hours could be as costly as battles. The context of this lapse is crucial. In early 1942, the Battle of the Atlantic had reached a critical phase. German U-boats prowled the shipping lanes with devastating effect. Convoys carrying vital supplies from North America to Britain were under constant threat. The Allies, relying on code breaking and reconnaissance, struggled to maintain an edge. Each message that detailed submarine positions, convoy schedules, or patrol rotations had strategic significance. A single overlooked communication could allow the Axis to ambush a convoy, disrupt supply lines, and tip the delicate balance in the Atlantic War. The environment in London and at forward command was chaotic. Air raid alerts, blackouts, and the constant hum of military bureaucracy created conditions ripe for error. Clerks worked in dimly lit rooms, handling hundreds of messages daily, while officers debated priorities in the adjacent halls. Mistakes were inevitable, but the cost of oversight was not theoretical. It was immediate and measurable. The overlooked code was a stark example of how fragile the intelligence chain could be, even in an organization famed for precision and discipline. Meanwhile, German forces continued their own operations, unaware that their plans might already be compromised. The operational schedule, though routine for its sender, contained information the Allies would consider goldmine. The timing, locations, and coordination of U-boat patrols were detailed, offering a glimpse into strategies that, until now, had been inferred only from limited sightings and radio intercepts. If deciphered in time, the message could allow Allied convoys to avoid ambushes, reposition escorts, and anticipate attacks, effectively turning the tables on the German Navy. Yet human oversight remained a constant variable. The envelope's journey from France to London exemplified the thin line between exposure and discovery. A clerk could misplace it. An officer could misread it. The code's simplicity, its very plainness, was both its shield and its danger. Its unassuming appearance ensured it blended with routine correspondence, but also meant that its value could be missed entirely. It was a small object with the potential for monumental impact, a hidden lever in the machinery of war. By the time the envelope finally reached the desk of someone trained to recognize its significance, tension had been mounting elsewhere. Allied naval commanders were awaiting intelligence to plan convoy routes. Bletchley Park was under pressure to produce actionable insights daily. Every delay, every missed message, risked lives on the ocean and could alter the outcomes of battles thousands of miles away. This single, overlooked code illustrates the fragile intersection of chance, diligence, and timing in intelligence work. The story of this overlooked code does not unfold in isolation. It is entwined with human decision-making, the technological limits of the era, and the immense stakes of global warfare. What seems trivial, a letter left on a desk, can become decisive in shaping operations, outcomes, and lives. And in the story of this code, we see the first cracks forming in the seemingly impenetrable armor of wartime intelligence. Behind every envelope, every cipher, lies a network of people whose decisions, diligence, and fatigue shape outcomes in ways no manual could predict. In the dimly lit mailrooms of London, clerks worked long hours, their eyes scanning lines of letters and telegrams with practiced monotony. The envelope containing the U-boat's schedule passed unnoticed, not because of negligence, but because of the human limits of attention under pressure. The clerks were aware of the stakes of their work in general, but in a system inundated with thousands of messages daily, distinguishing critical intelligence from routine correspondence was an extraordinary challenge. Meanwhile, at Bletchley Park, codebreakers and linguists labored under immense stress. Each intercepted message demanded focus, patience, and an acute understanding of language patterns. The arrival of an unflagged, yet critical, message added uncertainty. Analysts often relied on procedural flags to prioritize work. When those cues were absent, the human element, judgment, intuition, and sometimes luck, became decisive. One officer's casual glance or one clerk's curiosity could mean the difference between life and death hundreds of miles away. The human angle underscores a fundamental truth of intelligence work. Even the most sophisticated systems are vulnerable to human error. Exhaustion, distraction, or routine can allow monumental details to slip through unnoticed. Yet the same human element can also serve as salvation. A single individual, noticing a small irregularity, can redirect the flow of information, altering the course of operations. In this delicate balance, the story of a code, left in plain sight, becomes a narrative of human frailty and vigilance intertwined. From a military perspective, the overlooked code represented both risk and opportunity. The Atlantic convoys depended on precise intelligence to avoid German U-boat wolf packs, which had decimated Allied shipping since the early years of the war. Every convoy's success hinged on anticipating submarine positions, understanding enemy patrol patterns, and deploying escorts strategically. In this context, a single message, if deciphered in time, could provide actionable guidance that would save ships, fuel, and thousands of lives. The tactical implications extend beyond the immediate convoy routes. Commanders relied on intelligence to allocate limited resources effectively. A single oversight could force the diversion of warships, expose supply lines, or create openings for enemy offensives. Conversely, a timely discovery of the code could enable a preemptive maneuver, turning an otherwise perilous voyage into a calculated success. The margin between victory and disaster often came down to minutes, making the stakes of overlooked intelligence extraordinarily high. The envelope's journey from France to London illustrates the tactical fragility inherent in wartime communication. Systems designed to deliver vital information were only as effective as the mechanisms that flagged, prioritized, and acted upon it. A lapse in procedure did not merely delay knowledge. It reshaped operational decisions at sea, in command rooms, and on the front lines. The code, mundane in appearance, had the potential to shift the tactical balance in the Atlantic theater dramatically. Technology, in 1942, was as much about human ingenuity as it was about machines. Cipher machines, radio transmitters, and telegraphic systems defined the landscape of intelligence. The Enigma machine, for instance, encoded messages in a rotating series of substitutions, creating a near-impenetrable puzzle for the Allies. Yet technology alone could not secure or interpret messages. It required operators, analysts, and systems to ensure that the right intelligence reached the right hands at the right time. The overlooked code highlights the dual-edged nature of wartime technology. On one hand, sophisticated encryption protected information from enemy eyes. On the other, reliance on technological procedure created vulnerabilities when human oversight faltered. The envelope slipped through the cracks not because of machine failure, but because the technological workflow depended on human compliance. Radio operators, clerks, and code-breakers were all part of a chain where a single break could compromise the intended security. Furthermore, the technological limitations of the era meant that information traveled slowly compared to modern standards. Even once the code was identified, verification, decoding, and dissemination consumed precious hours. The pace of war was relentless, and technology was both a tool and a constraint. In this sense, the overlooked envelope demonstrates that technology amplifies both human capability and human error. A failure at any link can multiply consequences exponentially. Decisions in war often rest on incomplete information. For senior officers in London and at Allied command posts, every incoming message could influence strategy and resource allocation. The overlooked code illustrates the critical role of leadership judgment under uncertainty. Commanders relied on reports from intelligence officers and codebreakers to direct naval movements and anticipate enemy actions. When a message slipped through unnoticed, leaders had to make high-stakes choices with only partial knowledge, weighing risk against operational necessity. The leadership angle emphasizes both responsibility and vulnerability. Orders given without full intelligence could expose convoys to ambush or misallocate critical assets. Conversely, leaders who fostered rigorous verification and encouraged curiosity among subordinates mitigated some of these risks. In this case, the eventual recognition of the overlooked code was not purely luck. It reflected a system where vigilance, hierarchy, and initiative intersected. Yet it also exposed how reliance on protocol and procedure could inadvertently endanger operations, demonstrating that leadership and intelligence is as much about anticipating human error as it is about strategic foresight. From the German perspective, the operational schedule contained in the envelope represented an opportunity, but one they never realized was at risk. The Axis powers depended on secrecy, compartmentalization, and the efficiency of their own communications. In their calculations, the Allies would be challenged to decrypt messages and respond in time. The fact that the envelope traveled unencrypted through routine channels created a rare vulnerability. The enemy angle underscores the interplay between opposing intelligence networks. Each side constantly probed for weaknesses, Yet success was often determined by unpredictable human factors rather than sheer skill. Had the code fallen into German hands, or if the Allies had mismanaged its discovery, it could have tipped the tactical balance in favor of the Axis. It demonstrates that in intelligence warfare, the line between advantage and disaster is razor-thin, defined not only by technology, but by timing, attention, and circumstance. The unseen adversary is a constant presence, influencing every decision, every misstep, and every discovery. Beyond tactical and strategic considerations lies a profound moral dimension. The story of a code left in plain sight highlights the human cost of oversight in war. Each hour the message remained unnoticed carried real consequences. Supply ships vulnerable to attack, sailors exposed to deadly ambushes, and the ripple effects of potential loss cascading through civilian populations reliant on those supplies. Intelligence is not an abstract exercise. It is measured in human lives. The moral angle confronts the tension between procedure and conscience. Clerks, officers, and codebreakers operated under immense pressure, yet each decision, whether to question an anomaly, flag an irregularity, or trust routine, carried ethical weight. War amplifies the consequences of inattention, but also exposes the moral responsibility embedded in every task. The overlooked envelope is a stark reminder that even small lapses in duty can have consequences far beyond the immediate scene, touching the lives of countless individuals who may never know the reason for their survival or their peril. Viewed together, these angles reveal a complex web of interdependencies. Human effort, technological capability, tactical decisions, leadership judgment, enemy strategy, and moral responsibility all converge around a single piece of overlooked intelligence. The narrative is no longer simply about an envelope or a code. It is about the fragile, intricate machinery of war and the human, ethical, and strategic consequences that follow from every small action or inaction. February 15th, 1942. The London fog has lifted, replaced by a brittle winter sun that casts sharp shadows across the city. In a small office at the Ministry of Defense, the envelope that had gone unnoticed finally reaches the desk of Lieutenant Harold Thompson, a junior intelligence officer assigned to routine mail audits. His eyes catch the irregular sequence of letters and numbers, something that doesn't match the standard formatting. For a moment, the room is silent save for the ticking of a wall clock, each second amplifying the weight of what he has discovered. Thompson knows enough to sense that this is no ordinary correspondence. He calls a senior cryptographer to verify the message. By 10:45 a.m., the sequence has been identified as a partially decoded operational schedule for German U-boat patrols in the North Atlantic. Immediate alarm spreads. Commanders convene a rapid briefing, assessing the implications for the convoys currently en route from Halifax to Liverpool. Ships carrying tanks, munitions, and food, essential lifelines to Britain, are exposed to attack within hours. Across the Atlantic, Convoy SC-67 is already en route. Allied escorts are minimal. The merchant ships traveling under standard zigzag patterns intended to reduce risk of submarine attacks. The operational schedule contained in the envelope reveals precise patrol zones and timing, offering an unprecedented opportunity to reroute ships and deploy additional escorts strategically. For the first time in weeks, a concrete plan emerges from the fog of uncertainty, but only if action is taken immediately. Back in London, decisions are urgent and unforgiving. Naval commanders debate priorities. Should they delay convoys to ensure safer passage or continue on the current schedule, risking losses but maintaining overall supply timelines? The code's revelation forces leaders to balance operational imperatives with human risk. Radios crackle with instructions. Cipher teams work furiously to verify the details, and officers coordinate with convoy commanders hundreds of miles away. Every delay compounds the stakes. Every miscommunication could render the intelligence useless. Meanwhile, German U-boat captains operate under strict orders, unaware that their schedules have been compromised. They patrol their designated zones, expecting Allied ships to follow predictable routes. The contrast between expectation and reality is stark. If the envelope had not been noticed, the convoys would have remained on their original courses, vulnerable to ambush, and thousands of tons of critical supplies could have been lost. The overlooked code has transformed from a potential oversight into a decisive piece of intelligence, illustrating the fragile interplay of chance, diligence, and timing. At Bletchley Park, codebreakers analyze the message further, cross-referencing it with intercepted radio transmissions and prior decrypts. Patterns emerge, confirming the locations and timing of U-boat patrols. Orders are drafted to reroute convoys and adjust escort schedules. The pace is relentless. Minutes matter. The human element, the curiosity of a single junior officer, has ignited a chain reaction, transforming a routine discovery into operational reality. The stakes are palpable in every command room, on every ship, and in every nervous glance toward the horizon. Officers update logs, signal flags, and radio communications, coordinating a delicate ballet of movement across hundreds of nautical miles. The tension is cinematic yet entirely factual. Every decision, every adjustment carries consequences measured in lives, material, and strategic advantage. As night falls over the Atlantic, the first convoys adjust their courses. The U-boats, following their original patrol plans, encounter gaps where Allied escorts have been strategically positioned. Early skirmishes occur, testing the limits of the intelligence derived from the overlooked code. For the first time, the implications of the envelope become concrete, proving that even a seemingly minor lapse, an envelope left in plain sight, can transform into the pivot point of operational success. By midnight, the immediate danger has shifted. Convoys navigate safer waters, losses are minimized, and the tactical advantage gained through the code becomes undeniable. Yet the larger consequences are only beginning to unfold. The chain reaction set in motion by a single overlooked message has altered the conduct of operations, tested leadership, and exposed both the fragility and power of wartime intelligence. The first phase of the climax closes with the realization a minor lapse in protocol could have led to catastrophic losses, but the vigilance of one individual turned potential disaster into strategic advantage. The narrative is poised for the second phase, where the full operational impact, the confrontation with enemy forces, and the broader consequences of the code's discovery come to light. The night of February 15th, 1942, stretches over the Atlantic with an uneasy calm. Convoy SC-67 adjusts course under newly issued orders, following routes calculated to avoid known U-boat patrol zones. The moonlight glints off the dark, churning waves, illuminating the silhouettes of merchant ships and their naval escorts. On board, officers scan the horizon through binoculars, every shadow and ripple a potential threat. Each captain understands that a single mistake could mean torpedo strikes, fire, and sinking ships with all hands aboard. In German command posts hundreds of miles away, U-boat captains follow their operational schedules, unaware that Allied intelligence has anticipated their movements. When the first Allied escorts appear in unexpected positions, confusion spreads. Patrols are disrupted, and the U-boats are forced to adjust on the fly, often exposing themselves to counterattack. The intelligence derived from the overlooked code has created an asymmetric advantage. The Allies act with knowledge the Germans cannot yet fathom. For the sailors aboard the convoy, the stakes are immediate and visceral. The Atlantic is unforgiving. Freezing temperatures, rolling swells, and the constant threat of submarine attack create a tension that gnaws at every mind. Each adjusted maneuver, every evasive zigzag, represents a delicate coordination between human skill and strategic foresight. The margin for error is minimal. One wrong turn or delayed command could nullify the advantage gained from the intelligence. Yet for the first time in weeks, there is a sense of control in an otherwise uncontrollable theater. Onshore, in London and at Bletchley Park, teams of analysts continue to monitor and verify the unfolding events. Radio intercepts confirm that several U-boats have been rerouted unintentionally, encountering no convoys in their assigned zones. Early reports from convoy commanders indicate smooth passage through the most dangerous stretches. The initial anxiety that accompanied the discovery of the overlooked envelope transforms into cautious optimism. Intelligence, human vigilance, and swift decision-making have converged to prevent disaster. Yet the situation remains tense. Not every U-boat has been neutralized or misled. Skirmishes erupt along the convoy route. Depth charges explode in the night, distant plumes of water marking near misses. Sailors cling to decks as explosions rock the hulls, and the fog of war is literal as well as figurative. The overlooked code has created an operational advantage, but its full benefit depends on continued vigilance, timely communication, and decisive action from both command and crew. By the following morning, the strategic outcome is clear. Convoy SC-67 has passed through the most dangerous sectors with minimal losses. Vital supplies, including ammunition, fuel, and food, have reached Britain intact. The U-boats, frustrated and mispositioned, report back confusion in their patrol zones. The operational advantage gained through a single overlooked envelope, noticed at the right moment, has tangible results. Lives saved, missions secured, and morale bolstered at a critical juncture in the Battle of the Atlantic. The climax also reveals a deeper lesson about intelligence work. A simple lapse, a routine envelope left in plain sight, could have led to catastrophic consequences, yet the combination of curiosity, training, and rapid response transformed potential disaster into strategic success. Leaders, analysts, and sailors alike witness firsthand how fragile yet decisive the chain of wartime operations can be. Every link matters. Human vigilance, technological processing, tactical decision-making, and the timing of actions converge to determine outcomes. By mid-February, the ripple effects of this event are felt across the Allied command structure. Convoy routes are adjusted permanently to incorporate lessons learned. Protocols for message handling and verification are reinforced. Officers share the story of the overlooked code as a cautionary example, highlighting the importance of both diligence and initiative. The chain reaction set in motion by a single envelope now informs doctrine, illustrating the enduring consequences of small actions in the vast machinery of war. As the Atlantic sun rises over the horizon, illuminating a sea that has just witnessed the delicate balance of fate and decision, the overlooked code has left its mark. Ships continue their journey, battles will rage elsewhere, and human vigilance remains the unseen force shaping the course of conflict. Yet the narrative is clear. In war, even the smallest details, unnoticed for hours, can become turning points that define operations, save lives, and alter history itself. By late February 1942, the immediate crisis triggered by the overlooked code had passed, but its consequences were already reshaping Allied operations. Convoy SC-67 had reached Liverpool with minimal losses, a remarkable achievement considering the lethal efficiency of German U-boat patrols at the time. The operational advantage gained from the envelope allowed naval commanders to adjust convoy routes in real time, strategically positioning escorts to intercept potential threats before they could strike. Hundreds of lives and thousands of tons of critical supplies have been safeguarded, an outcome that would not have been possible without the timely discovery of a single unassuming message. The success of the convoy prompted swift internal analysis. Officers at the Ministry of Defense conducted a thorough review of mailroom protocols, auditing how intelligence moved from forward commands to Bletchley Park and onward to operational units. The findings highlighted both vulnerability and resilience. Human error had almost cost the Allies dearly, but procedural oversight combined with individual vigilance had averted disaster. Measures were implemented immediately to ensure that all incoming correspondence would be screened with greater scrutiny, while training emphasized both attentiveness and initiative at every stage of intelligence handling. For the naval officers and sailors involved, the aftermath was tangible. Reports filed aboard escort ships noted the unusually smooth passage and the effectiveness of rerouted operations. Commanders credited both the information provided and the rapid response of communication teams. It became evident that intelligence, once overlooked, could act as a force multiplier if identified in time. In this case, the convergence of technology, human attention, and operational agility had tipped the scales in favor of the Allies. The German response, however, was delayed. U-boat commanders reported confusion in their patrol zones, encountering empty waters where convoys had been expected. Higher command in Berlin, unaware of the breach in operational security, continued to direct submarine activity according to outdated assumptions. While the Germans remained confident in the strength of their naval strategy, the Overlook Code had demonstrated that even minor vulnerabilities could yield disproportionate effects. The Allies had gained a tactical edge that would inform future convoy planning and anti-submarine operations. The episode also had broader implications for wartime intelligence culture. Bletchley Park analysts and field officers recognized that not all critical information came through formal, encrypted channels. Even a seemingly routine envelope could carry decisive value. The emphasis on vigilance, redundancy, and cross-verification became a permanent part of intelligence procedures. In addition, the story circulated among officers as a cautionary tale. The smallest oversight could imperil entire operations, while the sharp eyes of a single individual could prevent catastrophe. On a psychological level, the event reinforced the importance of trust in both people and systems. Clerks, codebreakers, and officers alike understood that every role mattered. The awareness that a minor lapse could have profound consequences instilled a heightened sense of responsibility. Conversely, the successful mitigation of the threat boosted morale, demonstrating that diligence and coordination could overcome risk even under immense pressure. By the end of February, the Overlook Code had already influenced tactical doctrine. Convoy planning now incorporated contingency procedures for handling unflagged messages. Naval communication protocols were refined, ensuring that any anomaly, no matter how trivial it appeared, would receive attention from trained officers. This event became an early example of lessons learned in real time, illustrating how intelligence operations evolve through both success and near failure. The immediate aftermath closes with one clear insight. A minor lapse had nearly produced disaster, but human vigilance, technological support, and rapid decision-making transformed potential loss into operational triumph. The story of this overlooked code would ripple through the rest of the war, shaping procedures, enhancing coordination, and reminding everyone involved that even the smallest details can have monumental effects. In the weeks following the SC-67 convoy operation, the overlooked code's effects extended beyond immediate tactical success. Allied naval planners realized that intelligence oversights, even minor ones, could drastically affect operations, prompting a reassessment of communication protocols across theaters. Instructions were issued to ensure that every piece of correspondence, whether encrypted or seemingly mundane, was subject to verification. Mailroom audits became more rigorous. Clerks were retrained to recognize anomalies, and junior officers were encouraged to flag irregularities without fear of reprimand. In this way, human vigilance was institutionalized as a strategic asset. Bletchley Park, already at the forefront of code breaking, integrated the lessons into its workflow. Analysts developed procedures to cross-check messages that arrived unflagged or outside normal channels. The facility expanded its use of double verification, ensuring that critical intelligence could not be overlooked due to procedural assumptions. These reforms improved operational resilience, reducing the likelihood that a single overlooked message could compromise convoys or missions. The experience reinforced an enduring truth. Intelligence systems are only as strong as the people operating them, and even the most advanced technology cannot replace human awareness. Across the Atlantic, convoy operations reflected these changes. Routing decisions began to rely on more than intercepted radio traffic. They incorporated lessons from the SC-67 incident, with contingency plans for unexpected or unverified intelligence. U-boat patrols, still unaware of the security breach, faced increasingly unpredictable Allied movements. Commanders leveraged intelligence gained from prior mistakes, applying it systematically to improve survivability and operational efficiency. What began as a minor lapse evolved into a catalyst for long-term tactical refinement, demonstrating how small event can drive systemic change in wartime operations. The German side, meanwhile, remained unaware of the breach, continuing to operate under their original assumptions. While the immediate tactical advantage faded once routines normalized, the incident underscored the persistent risk posed by even minor oversights. It highlighted a universal principle of intelligence warfare. One small human error or one unnoticed opportunity could have ramifications far beyond its apparent scale. The Allies had demonstrated that careful attention and rapid response could convert potential disaster into strategic gain, setting a precedent for future intelligence operations. Culturally and psychologically, the episode resonated within Allied command. Officers and analysts began to appreciate the delicate balance between procedure and initiative. The story of the overlooked envelope became a case study in vigilance, human judgment, and the cascading effects of attention to detail. It reinforced a growing awareness that warfare in the modern age was not won solely by firepower, but by information, timing, and the conscientious actions of individuals at every level of the chain of command. Long-term, the lessons of this single envelope influenced Allied intelligence doctrine. Standard operating procedures were refined, emphasizing redundancy, verification, and proactive review of all incoming communications. Commanders and analysts were trained to treat every anomaly seriously, no matter how trivial it appeared. In essence, the overlooked code became both a cautionary tale and a blueprint for improvement, a reminder that even small mistakes could alter the fate of thousands, while careful attention could safeguard lives and resources. Strategically, the incident contributed to the Allies' increasing mastery of intelligence-driven operations. Convoy protection improved, naval losses were gradually reduced, and the cumulative effect of such vigilance helped secure the vital lifeline across the Atlantic. Beyond immediate military gains, the story of the overlooked code illustrates a larger truth about wartime decision-making. Success often hinges on the interplay of human awareness, technological systems, and rapid response under pressure. The consequences of oversight are real and measurable, but so too are the rewards of attention and initiative. The long-term aftermath closes with a reflection on resilience. The envelope left in plain sight was more than a near mistake. It became a catalyst for systemic improvement, shaping intelligence procedures, operational planning, and wartime culture. It serves as a reminder that in conflict, details matter, vigilance is essential, and the actions of one individual can echo across theaters, affecting outcomes in ways that are both immediate and enduring. The story of the overlooked code is a testament to the fragile balance between human error and vigilance, chance and intention in the machinery of war. A single envelope, unnoticed for hours, held information that could have imperiled convoys, altered strategies, and cost countless lives. Yet it also illustrates the immense power of awareness, diligence, and decisive action. One junior officer's attentiveness transformed potential disaster into a tactical advantage, proving that even in vast conflicts, individual actions carry disproportionate weight. Beyond the immediate operational impact, the episode illuminates a deeper truth about intelligence and human decision-making. Warfare in the modern age is not won solely by armies, ships, or planes. It is won in the quiet moments, in offices and mailrooms, in the focused work of analysts, and the alertness of individuals who notice what others overlook. The envelope, left in plain sight, symbolizes both the vulnerability and resilience of human systems under pressure, reminding us that history often hinges on the smallest details. The long-term legacy of the incident extends beyond military procedure. It shaped intelligence culture, refined operational protocols, and strengthened the bonds of trust and responsibility among those entrusted with critical information. It reinforced that vigilance is both a duty and a moral imperative. The cost of inattention can be measured in lives lost, while the reward of careful observation may save thousands. Ultimately, this story reflects the human dimension of warfare. It is a narrative of caution and hope, of fragility and resilience, of the quiet heroism that exists behind the front lines. The envelope may have been small, unassuming, even mundane, but its significance echoes far beyond its physical form. In the end, it reminds us that in the vast theater of history, the unseen, the overlooked, and the understated can shape outcomes in ways no one anticipates.